What's going on, guys? Today I'm back with another Road to Pro video. Today I'm going to be covering starts and different starting techniques and stuff like that. Alright, so I'm just going to give you a quick example really quick. Yeah, the wheel came up a little bit, but when I shifted up to second, it pulls in the clutch because I have shift up on, so it just helps drop down the wheel a little bit. But anyway, alright, so first I'd like to cover gear selection. Me personally, I like to start in first gear because I feel like second gear gives you too much of a pop, and then you're really going to need a lot more throttle control so you can like keep the front wheel down while also keeping your RPMs up so you don't bog out in the start. So first gear I feel is a lot better because yeah, it pops up a little bit, but it's not that hard to control once you get the technique down. Second, I'd like to talk about traction. Traction really has a big impact when it comes to starts. So, say if you're doing a start in muddy conditions, right? You're going to need to choose a lower gear so you can keep your RPMs up, and you're most likely going to have to give it a little bit more gas off the start too. Or if you're doing a track with like hard packed dirt, you're going to tend to slide a little bit more, right? So you're going to need to have a lot more throttle control and not give it too much gas off the start because you're going to slide out. But if you're dealing with a track just like loose dirt, that's really grippy, you're one of you can those are one of the tracks where you can do the best starts, right? And that's I really recommend tracks like that because it can really help you, perfect your starting technique. But when it comes to practicing, I recommend really starting in first gear first and then moving your way up to second gear. Alright, so third, I like to talk about throttle control. When I'm on the gate and I rev the engine, I like to give the throttle about like halfway power, like half power or something like that. Alright, third, I like to talk about throttle control. When I'm on the gate and I start revving the engine, I give it about halfway power, just half, right? And then once the gate drops, I give it about 3/4, not full, but 3/4, just so RPM stay up and the front wheel doesn't really just pop up like out of control, right? And I find that to be really good for me. But you're you're most likely gonna have to practice that because it took me a while to consistently, put my throttle to 3/4 of the way because it's really hard to judge that, right? But it's just gonna take practice. So fourth, I like to talk about rider positioning. When I start, I like to sit down and alright, so fourth, I like to talk about rider positioning. When I start, I like to sit down and lean as far forward as I can go. So when the gate drops, my front wheel won't really pop up as much as it would if I was neutral or leaning back. But after I get that clean start, after I get to jump off the gate, I I say once I shift up to second gear, that's when I stand up and then I lean as far back as I can. And then sometimes you'll see me like sit down and stand up like constantly. Um, and that's so I can, get the power to the ground. And it honestly, it really helps. So, yeah. Alright, so last I'd like to talk about shifting. Shifting is really important because it helps you, really get the power to the ground and like start pulling on everyone else if you're in the right gear, right? But to really master it, you just want to listen, like really listen to the sound of the bike. I know a lot of people, they don't like using the clutch when they shift. But if you do, that's good because then you don't really have to worry about this step. But um, people that don't use the clutch, I know you tend to miss a gear a lot, right? So, and that's because when you start revving, like when you start revving out, and you try to shift out while your bike is revving out, it won't shift. So what you have to do is really listen to the sound of the bike, right? And right before it revs out, that's when you want to shift. One, because that's the proper way to shift your bike, and two, because I mean, you don't want to miss a gear off the start. I mean, that's the worst thing ever. Knowing that you had it in the bag, but you just didn't shift up. So yeah, honestly, that's really wrap up this video here. If you guys have any other questions, just leave it in the comments below. And if this helped you out, just let me know by leaving a like. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next Road to Pro video.